I've been cautioned about asserting ideas that may disrupt the PR establishment and the PR business model. Oh well. This video is going to focus on why the very definition of PR, as crafted by the Public Relations Society of America, PRSA, is outdated and just plain wrong. The PRSA spent years crowdsourcing a modern definition of PR, and in 2012 they settled on this. Public relations is a strategic communication process that builds mutually beneficial relationships between organizations and their publics. That's pure BS.
First of all, while the official definition of PR speaks of mutually beneficial relationships, the actual practice of PR, as conducted using the current model, has nothing to do with mutually beneficial relationships at all. And I will show evidence of that in just a couple of minutes. Secondly, PR, as practiced today, is all about tactical strikes. The audience is thought of as targets for messages used in a one-way assault aimed at the target to persuade them to think and or act consistent with the goals of those creating and distributing the messages. Again, this has nothing to do with mutual benefits, and I will also show evidence of that in a few minutes. I worked in senior PR positions for more than 50 years, including co-founding 5 agencies, and I loved it. The last thing I want to do is criticize the PR business without suggesting a viable alternative. So, instead of just criticizing in a hit-and-run fashion, I'm going to discuss an alternative that is not only more than a viable alternative, but is a better alternative, as evidenced by the actual results achieved by the enterprises that use it, and thereby justifying the title of this video, "The World's Best PR Isn't PR at All." Let's start considering my hypothesis by taking a look at the research of Dr. Michael Tomasello. He is a highly respected American developmental and comparative psychologist, as well as a linguist. Tomasello makes the point that humans and chimpanzees are sister genera, members of the same genus of animals. By that he means that chimps and humans are related because they share a common ancestor that no longer exists, just as zebras are related to horses and mice are related to rats. But Tomasello raises a deceptively simple question. Chimps live much the same way they did 6 million years ago, still swinging in the trees, but humans have created a vastly different life for themselves. They are responsible for civilization, science, math, and art. Why? His one-word answer: collaboration. According to Tomasello, when chimpanzees hunt together in groups, they are not really collaborating because each chimp is actually trying to get the prey for themselves. They know they need other chimps to be successful in their hunt, much the same way lions circle their prey as a group. But once the prey is captured and the hunt is over, each individual chimp wants to take it for themselves. That is the opposite of what humans do. Once humans capture the prey, they take it back to their camp to share all around. Tomasello explains that the chimps act with individual intentionality, whereas humans act with shared intentionality, true mutual benefit. And to do that, the humans use their unique ability to communicate, which they did even hundreds of thousands of years ago before language, when they used grunts and pantomime, as discussed in an earlier video. But now it's time for the rubber meets the road question. How does that unique human ability to communicate in order to collaborate come to life in what's usually defined as their PR efforts? Amazon provides a great example. They built their brand through utility and customer experience rather than the traditional approach of persuasion. Their brand emerges from action rather than press releases. It's been a winning approach. Amazon's trajectory is often cited as the fastest scale-up in corporate history. Revenues in 2024 reached approximately $630 billion, placing it second in the world only to Walmart. As of early 2026, Amazon employs roughly 1.5 million people globally, and Amazon currently holds a market capitalization of approximately $2.6 trillion, rivaling Apple, Microsoft, and Nvidia for the title of the most valuable company in the world. That's all hard, objective numbers. Now, how does their approach work for consumer respect? Despite various controversies, Amazon consistently ranks as the second or third most trusted brand in America. Amazon uses an approach they call working backwards. It is distinctively different from the usual PR approach. Before a product is launched, an Amazon team writes a mock press release and a list of frequently asked questions. Compare that to the enterprises that cling to the traditional practice of PR. In most companies, the PR department writes the release after the product is built to spin it to explain to the public why they should embrace the product. But at Amazon, the customer benefit is defined first. If the mock press release wouldn't sound exciting to a customer, they don't build the product. In other words, their goal is not to persuade the customer about anything at all. Instead, their approach is to collaborate with their customer by understanding what they want and then responding to what their customers tell them. That is true mutual benefit, as is the Jeff Bezos mandate that all product ideas include a hypothetical customer review written as if it were 5 years in the future. This forces the team to focus on Amazon's actions rather than their pronouncements. It is a shift from the famous Marshall McLuhan axiom that the medium is the message to collaboration is the message. Here's another perfect example of the Amazon approach of collaborating with their customers rather than viewing them as targets. The Amazon review system, created when Amazon still sold only books. It allowed customers to post negative reviews, something that publishers hated. Amazon told the publishers that it wasn't in the business of selling books, but in the business of helping customers make purchase decisions. They gave control of the message to the customer. That's real collaborating for mutual benefit. I can already imagine the reaction from those defending the traditional approach to public relations. Oh, Amazon is an aberration. You can't use Amazon as a role model. Okay, consider this instead. Take a look at Zappos. Instead of waging a campaign to persuade their targets to buy shoes online, they devoted almost their entire marketing budget to invest in customer service and the customer experience. For example, they offered free shipping both ways and a 365-day return policy. They viewed the high cost of returns not as a loss, but as their primary marketing expense. So, how did that work for them? They were founded in 1999 with a $2 million investment. 10 years later, sales reached approximately $1 billion. And consider this, 44% of their new customers came purely through word of mouth. They didn't have to proclaim they were helpful. Their actions proved it. 10 years after they were founded, Amazon acquired them for $1.2 billion. One of the favorite pitches of PR firms is, we help create great word of mouth for you, but no, they don't. Actions create word of mouth, not messages aimed at targets. In other words, collaboration is the message. Here's another example. Costco, which is a real masterclass in building a massive global business, more than $250 billion in revenue, using the collaborative communications philosophy and almost completely ignoring traditional PR and advertising. As of the beginning of 2026, they had 923 warehouses worldwide, more than 145 million total cardholders, customers, and 341,000 employees worldwide. And their private label Kirkland Signature products is bigger than many Fortune 500 companies. Pretty good for a brand that basically has a promotional budget of zero. Plus, their business model is incredibly stable, with a North American renewal rate of 92.2%. So, how do they evidence the collaborative approach? They very visibly do not treat their customers as targets. Instead, they act as the customer's buying agent, capping their own profit margins at 14-15%. And here's a final example, the home builder, NVR. I know this case history intimately because I was VP of Corporate Affairs, Public Relations for 4 years, and they became my first client when I established my own investor relations firm. In 1988, NVR was one of the nation's largest home builders with about $1.2 billion in annual sales. But fallout from the savings and loan debacle and the extremely difficult national economy led to NVR filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 1992. Since it was founded as a small Greater Washington, D.C. home builder, the company was fanatically focused on their customers and their communities. Founder, chairman, CEO Dwight Scharr thought most advertising was a waste of money. His view was if you built great houses and your customers knew it, all you needed to do was take out ads that listed the locations of their new home developments, and then the customers would seek them out because of the great reputation. The NVR case history shows how it doesn't take major PR campaigns to establish a great reputation for being true collaborators with your customers. Consider this example. Scharr made his office phone number easily available to anyone. When his phone rang, he picked up the call himself, rather than a secretary or other gatekeep. He used the simple greeting. "This is Dwight, and I have personally witnessed this." He would say to a caller with a concern about something with their new home, "Tell me what your problem is, and we will fix it." He didn't hedge on that promise of the fix was expensive. Through that sort of collaboration with the customer, the company was able to build a strong reputation so that when we announced that we were filing for Chapter 11, we could simply and honestly provide the media, our investors, our customers, our vendors, and strategic partners such as realtors a very simple and credible response. When asked how NVR would cope with the bankruptcy, we made the company's reputation the answer by saying taking care of our customers made us one of the nation's largest home builders, and taking care of our customers will help us get through this financial situation. Here's the punchline. When NVR came out of bankruptcy, it was selling at about $5 per share. Today, it is selling at about $7,500 a share. But defenders of the current PR model will say, okay, you were able to find examples to make a case for a collaborative communication approach. But there are tons of examples where the current model works wonders. Fair enough. Consider this. Pets.com. While Amazon was quietly building its logistics flywheel, Pets.com became the ultimate cautionary tale of the old communications model. They spent millions trying to talk their way into a reputation that they failed to earn through their operational reality. They spent over $70 million on marketing in a single year, including a famous appearance in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Everyone knew the brand, but the reputation was a hollow shell. They were losing money on every sale because they hadn't figured out how to ship heavy dog food profitably. Their PR campaign proclaimed that Pets.com was the future of pet care, but their actions didn't match the message. The company collapsed because it had a persuasion approach and budget, but no foundation of collaborating with their customers. They would have done well to understand collaboration is the message. Let's not forget Quibi. The company was launched in 2020 by Hollywood titan Jeffrey Katzenberg and former HP CEO Meg Whitman. They raised a staggering $1.75 billion before the company went live. It shut down just 6 months later, becoming one of the most expensive failures in entertainment history. Quibi, which was short for Quick Bites, was built on a single high-stakes bet that busy people would pay for premium 10-minute videos to watch on their phones during the in-between moments of their day, like waiting for a coffee or riding the subway. They spent up to $100,000 per minute to hire A-list stars like Steven Spielberg and Kevin Hart to make short, high-budget episodes. They charged $4.99 with ads or $7.99 without ads, and they created a feature called Turnstile, so the viewer could switch between vertical and horizontal viewing seamlessly. Oh boy. Here's the short explanation of why the company failed. They relied on old school Hollywood hype in a new school digital world. They bet on hype and they lost the bet. They should have bet on listening to their customers and collaborate with them. Similar to the case histories of success I reviewed a few moments ago. Of course, there are a gazillion examples that can be spotlighted to show how using the traditional approach to PR produced fantastic results. But I named this Substack Consider This. And I do believe that anyone who is involved with conceiving or executing a PR campaign should consider some of the points I've made here, maybe while considering if there is any takeaway that could be applied to your organization. And I hope you also consider subscribing to get an alert when new videos are posted, and also sharing your comments, ideas, and criticisms that will make it easier for us to collaborate. See you next time.